My name is Arthur Pembroke, and for 27 years, my wife Eleanor and I believed we had found our little slice of heaven on Elmwood Drive. It was more than a house, it was a home we raised our children in, a place of birthday parties, Christmas mornings, and quiet evenings on the porch swing. The garden was Eleanor's masterpiece, a burst of color that the whole neighborhood would stop and admire. We were happy. We were at peace. And then, the letters started. It began subtly. A notice slipped into our mailbox on crisp, white paper with the intimidating header, Elmwood Meadows Homeowners Association, Compliance Division. It stated that our fence was 2 inches too high according to subsection C, paragraph 4 of the bylaws. I remember showing it to Eleanor, and we both just chuckled. 2 inches, she said, her gentle laugh filling the kitchen. Arthur, who on earth would even notice? We paid the small fine, a mere $50, and thought nothing more of it. But the HOA, it seemed, had developed a taste for it. The next month, it was about our mailbox. It was non-conforming, apparently. The month after that, Eleanor's beloved garden gnome, a cheerful little fellow she'd had for 40 years, was deemed an unauthorized lawn ornament. Each notice was more petty, more absurd than the last. Each was signed by the HOA president, a woman named Barbara Whitlock. Barbara wasn't just enforcing rules, she was conducting a reign of terror. She'd patrol the neighborhood in her golf cart, a clipboard in hand and a permanent frown on her face. The other residents whispered about her. No one dared confront her. She held too much power. But the notice that changed everything arrived on a Tuesday. I remember the paper felt cold in my hands. Violation, exterior paint color noncompliance. The shade of blue on your residence, Haven Sky Blue, is not an approved color within the Elmwood Meadows HOA palette. You are hereby ordered to repaint the property in an approved color within 30 days. Failure to comply will result in daily fines of $100, until the issue is resolved. I felt the blood drain from my face. Haven Sky Blue. Eleanor had chosen that color the year we moved in. She'd said it reminded her of the sky on the day we first met. It was the color of our life together. Arthur? Eleanor's voice was soft with worry from the doorway. What is it now? I couldn't even speak. I just handed her the letter. I watched her eyes scan the words, saw her hand fly to her mouth, her eyes glistening with tears. It wasn't just about the paint. It was an attack on our memory, on our love, on the very soul of our home. But, why, was all she could whisper. The next day, I went to the HOA office. Barbara Whitlock sat behind a large desk, a smug smile plastered on her face. Mr. Pembroke, she said, not offering me a seat. Hear about the violation, I assume. Barbara, please, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. This color, it's been there for 27 years. My wife, it means a great deal to her. She didn't even blink. Rules are rules, Arthur. We can't have one house looking different. It brings down the entire community's property values. You have 30 days. I suggest you use them to find a painter. The cost, it's thousands of dollars we don't have. Then I suggest you find the money, she said coldly, turning back to her computer. The fines will accrue daily. Good day. I left that office feeling a humiliation I hadn't felt since I was a boy. I saw the look in Eleanor's eyes when I returned empty-handed. It wasn't just sadness anymore. It was a defeat. The light in her, the light that had filled our home for decades, was dimming. And it was being extinguished by a woman with a clipboard and a heart of stone. That night, I didn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, listening to Eleanor's quiet, troubled breathing. The anger, the helplessness, churned inside me. I was a retired history teacher, not a fighter. But as the first light of dawn crept through the window, something in me shifted. This wasn't just about pain anymore. This was a war for our dignity. And I knew exactly where to find the ammunition. I walked to my dusty study, pulled a large, leather-bound binder from the bottom shelf of my bookcase. It was labeled Elmwood Meadows HOA, Original Covenants and Bylaws. I hadn't opened it in decades. As I blew off the dust, a slow, determined smile spread across my face. Barbara Whitlock played with modern rules. But I was about to remind her of an ancient, forgotten law. The revenge wouldn't be loud or messy. It would be quiet, precise, and utterly devastating. It would be fought not with anger, but with patience, wisdom, and the one thing she never thought to check, her own rulebook. The following weeks were a study in quiet patience. I paid the daily fines without complaint. I even went so far as to get quotes from painters, which I made sure were overheard by Barbara's ever-watchful neighbors. I wanted her to feel confident, to believe she had won. Let her stack her violations high. The higher the stack, the harder her fall would be. Meanwhile, I became a scholar. My binder of original covenants, written in 1972 when the community was first established, became my Bible. I cross-referenced every amendment, every addendum passed over the decades. And then, I found it. Buried in a section about architectural control was Clause 7b. It stated that any changes to the approved exterior color palette required a unanimous vote of the entire HOA board. Not a majority. Unanimous. A light went on. I remembered the last meeting I'd attended, years ago. They'd voted to change the palette, removing several outdated colors. I'd thought nothing of it at the time. But now, I had a question. Was Haven Sky Blue one of the colors removed? And if so, was that vote unanimous? I paid a small fee to the county clerk's office for a copy of the official meeting minutes from that date. When the envelope arrived, my hands trembled. I scanned the page, my heart pounding. There it was. Motion to amend the exterior color palette, removing colors Sunset Blush, Willow Green, and Haven Sky Blue. Motion carried. And listed below were the votes of the 5 board members. 4 ayes. And 1 nay. The nay vote was cast by a man named Robert Hill. Old Mr. Hill. A kind, quiet man who had passed away 3 years ago. The vote to remove my wife's color was not unanimous. It was illegal. Every single fine, every threat levied against me and who knows how many other homeowners, was based on an invalid, improperly passed rule. I didn't celebrate yet. I hired a lawyer, a sharp young woman named Sarah who was appalled by the story. We prepared our case meticulously. We didn't inform the HOA. We just waited. The day of the hearing arrived. Barbara Whitlock sat across from us at a long table, a folder of violations in front of her, a look of triumphant contempt on her face. She began to list my transgressions, her voice dripping with faux regret. And therefore, the association seeks not only the accrued fines, totaling $3,200, but also legal fees and an immediate injunction to force compliance. The judge, a weary-looking man named Judge Henderson, listened patiently. "Mr. Pembroke," he said. "What do you have to say for yourself?" I stood up. "Your Honor, I do not dispute the facts as presented. I merely dispute their validity." I handed copies of the original covenant and the meeting minutes to the judge and to a now frowning Barbara. The rule my home is allegedly violating was passed improperly. According to the original governing documents of Elmwood Meadows, which have never been amended on this point, such a change requires a unanimous vote. This vote was 4-1. It is therefore null and void. Haven Sky Blue has, in fact, always been an approved color. The silence in the courtroom was absolute. Barbara's face went from pink, to red, to a pale, ashen gray. She frantically flipped through the pages I'd given her. This is absurd," she spluttered. "We've been enforcing this for years." "And you've been wrong for years," my lawyer, Sarah, said calmly. "Not only are Mr. Pembroke's fines invalid, but every fine levied against every homeowner for any of these improperly removed colors must be repaid. With interest." Judge Henderson looked over the documents, then down at Barbara. The corner of his mouth twitched. He suppressed a laugh, but the look in his eyes was clear. It was the look of pure, unvarnished ridicule. "I've seen a lot of things in my courtroom, Mrs. Whitlock," he said, his voice low and steady. "But a homeowners association violating its own covenants to fine a man for the color of his house, a color that isn't even illegal? It's a spectacular waste of this court's time. He ruled in our favor on every point. The fines were voided. The HOA was ordered to conduct a full audit and repay every illegal fine it had ever collected. The story made the local news. Barbara Whitlock resigned from the board in disgrace. That evening, Eleanor and I sat on our porch swing, looking at our beautiful, legal, Haven sky blue house. The community, freed from Barbara's tyranny, had started to come back to life. Neighbors waved, no longer afraid. Eleanor took my hand. "You fought for us, Arthur," she said, her eyes shining not with tears, but with pride. "You fought for our home." I squeezed her hand. "No, my dear," I said. "I just reminded them that a home isn't about the color of its paint or the height of its fence. It's about the love inside it, the memories within its walls, and the dignity of the people who live there. And no one, no matter how many clipboards they have, has the right to take that away. The moral of the story is that bullies only have the power you give them. Sometimes, the mightiest weapon isn't anger, but the quiet, unwavering knowledge that you are right. Stand your ground, know your worth, and never, ever let anyone dim the color of your life. If you've ever faced a similar injustice, don't suffer in silence. Know your rights, read your contracts, and remember that fairness and community are values worth fighting for." If you enjoyed this story of justice, feel free to share your own experiences in the comments below. And subscribe for more tales of dignity reclaimed.